South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, born of hope in 2011 after decades of civil war. But its promise was swiftly overwhelmed by fresh conflict, tribal divisions, and cycles of violence. How did we get here? To understand South Sudan's turmoil, we need to go back, way back, to the roots of colonization, Arab-African tensions, and the long shadow cast by Khartoum. The colonial legacy. The story begins during the late 19th century, when what is now Sudan was jointly ruled by Britain and Egypt. This colonial rule artificially merged two vastly different regions, the largely Arab Muslim north and the African, predominantly Christian and animist south, into one state. These regions were not only culturally distinct, but historically antagonistic. Under colonial policy, the South was deliberately isolated and underdeveloped, with little political infrastructure. When independence came in 1956, power fell to the northern elites in Khartoum, and the South was left out entirely. The First Sudanese Civil War, tensions exploded in 1955, even before independence, when Southern soldiers mutinied, fearing Northern domination. This marked the beginning of the First Sudanese Civil War, a brutal conflict that lasted until 1972. The South, feeling culturally and politically marginalized, took up arms under various rebel groups, most notably the Anyanya movement. After 17 years and 500,000 deaths, the Addis Ababa Agreement of 1972 granted limited autonomy to the South, but the peace would not last. The Second Sudanese Civil War. In 1983, the Second Sudanese Civil War erupted. President Jafar Nimeri had unilaterally revoked southern autonomy and declared Sudan an Islamic state governed by Sharia law, reigniting fears of religious and ethnic oppression. This time, the southern resistance was led by the Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA, under the leadership of John Garang. This conflict was far bloodier than the first, with over 2 million people killed and millions more displaced. It wasn't just a war, it was famine, genocide, and child soldiers. The path to independence. The international community began to intervene. In 2005, under intense global pressure, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, CPA, was signed. The South would get a semi-autonomous government for 6 years, followed by a referendum on independence. The people of Southern Sudan voted overwhelmingly, 98.83%, in favor of secession in 2011. South Sudan was born, but so were deep, unresolved divisions. The internal conflict and civil war. South Sudan's joy was short-lived. The ruling Sudan People's Liberation Movement, SPLM, quickly fractured along ethnic lines. President Salva Kiir, a Dinka, clashed with his vice president Riek Machar, a Nuer. In December 2013, violence erupted in the capital Juba after Kiir accused Machar of plotting a coup. The civil war that followed turned into an ethnic bloodbath between Dinka and Nuer communities. Entire villages were destroyed. Civilians were slaughtered. Both government forces and rebels committed atrocities. UN peacekeepers struggled to contain the violence. At its height, the war killed an estimated 400,000 people and displaced 4 million. Peace efforts and fragility. In 2015, a shaky peace agreement was signed. It collapsed. In 2018, another deal was brokered, again bringing Kiir and Machar into a unity government. Fighting slowed, but trust remained fragile. Intercommunal violence flared across the country. Cattle raids, revenge killings, and clashes over land and resources, often with political backing. Despite oil wealth, South Sudan remained impoverished. Corruption was rampant, with billions of dollars siphoned off, while millions faced starvation. Schools, hospitals, roads, all remained in ruin. Foreign aid became the country's lifeline. Today and the road ahead. Today, South Sudan remains in a state of no war, no peace. The transitional government is inching toward long-promised elections, now delayed multiple times. Power struggles continue behind the scenes. The people, resilient, resourceful, endure with hope but little trust in their leaders. The conclusion: South Sudan's journey is one of immense suffering and survival. It is a warning of what happens when identity politics and colonial legacies go unhealed. But it's also a reminder that peace, while fragile, is possible if the people are heard and justice is served. That is the end of this 10-minute deep dive. If you learned something new, hit like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts below. Let's keep history alive together.